Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to episode 439 of AskGSM, here today for Wednesday, April 27, 2022. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get right into it, guys. First question comes from Noel from Facebook. The first question was, who would be Randy Orton's top 5 rivals? Well, if you read one of my most recent Bleacher Report articles from Monday, the exact 20-year anniversary of Randy Orton's WWE debut, you would know I ranked, I think, the top 7. And I put a bunch of honorable mentions, including Batista, Shawn Michaels, Seth Rollins, among other people. The top 7, I don't remember who the, 6, I think one was, I'll just spoil it for you here now, but definitely go back and check the article on Bleacher Report for my full detail as to why I did each selection. But I think I did The Undertaker and Jeff Hardy at 7 and 6. 5 through 1. 5, I think I put, who was it? I know in no particular order, I had John Cena, Triple H, Mick Foley, Christian, and I think it was Edge. I think it was Edge, Foley, Christian, Cena, and Triple H. Edge and Orton have had a lot of good matches over the course of their careers, including, honestly, it doesn't really get enough credit, I don't think, but that greatest wrestling match ever, which it wasn't, but it ended up being a great match at Backlash 2 years ago between Orton and Edge. With no fans, but still a very, very good match. And the the great feud they had that year leading into WrestleMania 36. The match itself at Mania wasn't great, but the feud itself was outstanding. They feuded briefly in 2010, obviously rated RKO, feuded briefly in 2007, so that's why he was on there. Mick Foley obviously helping put Orton on the map with that amazing, great feud from 03 to 04, culminating in that fantastic, probably Orton's best match ever, Backlash, another Backlash match. Backlash 2004 for the Intercontinental Championship, the hardcore match. Fantastic feud there. The Christian stuff should speak for itself. They had that amazing feud in 2011. Probably some of Orton's best string of matches ever. I mean, he's had a million matches with Cena and Triple H, among other people. Sheamus, another one too. But no match quality was better than the matches he had with Christian in 2011 over the World Heavyweight Championship. One of my favorite feuds ever. I told Christian that when I met him for the first time. He was really thankful of that. We had a great 5-minute discussion about that feud alone. God, I fucking love that feud. But yeah, Christian would be on that list. Specifically, that Over the Limit match. SummerSlam might be, I think of the two, I would choose the Over the Limit match. The SummerSlam match, I think, the SummerSlam match gets more love. The No Holds Barred bout for the World Heavyweight title. But I think of the two, Over the Limit might be my favorite personally. So there was that. Cena and Triple H, the drill. Orton and Triple H have feuded God knows how many times, including when they kicked Orton out of Evolution in 2004. Had a couple of matches in 2005. Took a few years off, went back to it in 2007, 2008, 2009, and had a few matches from there on out. Orton was Triple H's last televised opponent in WWE at Super Showdown, I think it was, in 2019, before Triple H just recently retired, so there is that as well. The Cena matches, speak for themselves. They had a million matches from 07, 08, 09, and a few more matches from that point forward in the years that followed. Never any truly amazing matches, though I did like the Hell in a Cell match. I did like the Iron Man match at Bragging Rights 2009, and some decent matches in 08 as well. But Cena would probably be his top rival. Noel's second question. Let's get into the meaty stuff here, the juicy stuff you guys came to hear about. Thoughts on Becky Lynch's comments on AEW's women's division. So to pull up the tweet from Fightful here, the full excerpt of the interview is available on their website and pretty much available everywhere, but this was the tweet that blew up on Tuesday, with everyone kind of debating, is she wrong? Is she right? Why would she, talk about AEW? Why would she bash them like that? She was just making her own points. I think part of it, too, is the fact that, she's just in character, and that's just how Becky Lynch is. Becky Lynch does this constantly, where she'll say things, she'll make, these grand claims and all this other stuff, and a lot of it is just in character. I think she definitely does feel this way to a certain extent, if not fully believe this, which is fine, which is totally fine. I'll get into whether I agree or not in a second, but I think people got to take that with a grain of salt before they freak the fuck out on social media and start tweeting about it and arguing with people about it. A lot of this stuff is tongue-in-cheek, whether she actually believes it or not. You'll never really know because that's just how she is in most interviews. That's how she was with me when we spoke a couple of months ago. But anyway, what she said was, women in AEW are not represented the way that we are. Don't get as much time and aren't as good. Again, the full question or the full answer to that question is available in the interview itself on their website. They didn't interview her, but they just put the excerpts up. I think people got to remember this too. Another big point of this, people are, why she got AEW in her mouth? Why is she talking to the competition? Why would she bring that up for no reason? It's the fucking interviewers, people. I mean, this is just what people do. I interview a lot of these superstars and wrestlers and stuff like that. If I never try to have them bash the opposition. I never even really talk about AEW when I talk to the WWE people. And if we do, it's more a matter of, what are your thoughts on this? Is it nice having more competition? Usually it's the fucking interviewer's fault for asking, what are your thoughts on AEW's women's division? I mean, I don't know if that's a question I would personally ask because it's not really relevant to Becky or WWE. I mean, that's just looking for an answer to make a headline, which is exactly what that guy or girl did. And good for them, I guess, but that's really just looking to stir shit up. I do not blame Becky Lynch at all. If you want someone to blame the interviewer. I mean, I know people got to make their headlines and shit, but some of this shit is really just done to stir shit and to create clickbait headlines. That's really just what it is. If you don't see through that for what it is, then you're a moron. But anyway, those were Becky Lynch's comments. Women in AEW are not represented the way that we are, don't get as much time, and aren't as good. On the surface, do I agree or disagree? Yes, I agree. I don't think what she said was completely bullshit. I really don't. But I don't think she's entirely... I mean, you also have to look at the other side of it, too. First of all, she's not going to bash her own women's division, very likely, because she works in WWE as a top star there. She's very proud, I'm sure, of what the WWE women have accomplished, and rightfully so. You got to look at it from both angles here. Is she wrong in a vacuum with what she is saying? No. The AEW women are not represented the same as they are in WWE. The women in WWE are not represented perfectly, don't get me wrong. I mean, if Charlotte and Ronda was that hot of a main event going into WrestleMania, they would have headlined. But because it wasn't, and Stone Cold's return was that much bigger, they took the main event slot. Not only that, but you look at the Raw Women's division right now, there's a lot of great talent there. Asuka's back, that's great. Nikki Ash just means absolutely nothing. Doudrop, I don't imagine many people care about her at this moment, although she is very good. Tamina and Dana Brooke are on the show almost every week. They tease the big pop from that wedding double commitment ceremony last week was the tease of a lesbian kiss between Tamina and Dana Brooke. That was the only 30-second snippet of that double commitment ceremony that people gave a shit about. If that's the only thing that people care about from that wedding ceremony, you're doing something wrong. And that much was evident when they incorporated the 24/7 bullshit into that feud, and it's just terrible. But WWE's portrayal of the women is far from perfect. Is it better than AEW's? What she is saying, what she literally said, women in AEW are not represented the way that we are. That is true. Not that AEW's portrayal of women is awful. Like, it's not the Attitude Era where they're just like eye candy or whatever and they're only used as valets. We're getting a fucking no DQ match, and I think in Philly tonight, between Shida and Deeb. It's a match we've seen a million times before. It's a nice payoff to the, 6-month feud they've been having. But still, I mean, it's not like the matches are completely shit. I mean, they do deserve more feuds and more airtime. We've had only, 2 women's main events in Dynamite history in the last 2 years, and both of them involved Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. The matches those two had were fantastic. I thought the Steel Cage match was great. But the well runs dry beyond that. They are not represented the same way. We barely see the women on Dynamite most weeks. I don't think it was last week. I think it was 2 weeks ago. The only women's, match that we had on the entire show was Marina Shafir and Sky Blue, and it was not fucking good. And it's a 2-hour show, too. They have Rampage. We get women's matches over there as well. They're typically nothing of importance, which is why they're on Rampage and not on Dynamite. But, yeah, I mean, we had Jade Cargill and Marina Shafir headlining last week. It's not the same as Becky Lynch versus Asuka or Sonya versus Bianca Belair, which I was honestly kind of underwhelmed by on Monday. But that's because the WWE women have a lot more... They've been around for a lot longer, and that's not an excuse. I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, Becky, Charlotte, Sasha have had far more chances to establish themselves as big stars. Not that the women AEW are not big stars, but you have Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, who I feel like are the biggest of the best of that women's division, for sure. but we barely see Thunder Rosa on television. Becky Lynch, while she was the Raw Women's Champion, say what you will and about her reign, which I don't think is overly negative criticism anyway, but for any detractors of her reign, that it was boring, blah, 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 she was always on the show, and she was always doing something of importance, whether it be cutting a promo, having a match, doing a storyline, backstage segment. She was always on the show. Charlotte, same thing. You might be sick of her, and she's honestly maybe even overexposed, but she's always on the show. She's always cutting a promo. She's always either having a match or doing something of importance. Thunder Rosa, I couldn't tell you the last time she was on the fucking show. She may have had like a 20-second promo, a pre-tape promo last week on Dynamite. The Nyla Rose match, I couldn't give two fucks about it. Battle of the Belts, honestly. It was fine, but I just really don't care. It's true. They are not represented the same. The WWE women are represented better on the main roster anyway, but again, we got to remember here, the representation of women in NXT, for the most part, is fucking awful. It really is. I mean, the division isn't terrible, but a lot of it is like Nikita Lyons. She's not completely terrible, but I think people kind of overrate her because they love how she looks. Honestly, I think that's just my opinion. I'm not a big Nikita Lyons fan. I think people overrate her just because she was a meme online because of how she pinned her opponents in the ring. I mean, if that's really all that we're getting excited about here, then what does that say about that women's division? What happened to the days of Io Shirai having bangers with Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox and people like that? Toxic Attraction having the sex appeal gimmick doesn't really bother me because that's their gimmick. That's what that's just what it is. But they go overboard with the Indy Hartwell stuff, who I'm a big fan of. You guys know that I talked about her a lot here on the show, but that storyline with her and Persia and them making out in the middle of the ring, not with each other, but with Dexter Lumis and Duke Hudson, is just fucking terrible. The way they have Idris Inoue and Malik Blade simping over women every week on the show, not this week, thankfully, but they have them out there acting all horny for Toxic Attraction. It's just stupid. It's dumb, and there's many more examples of that as well. Tiffany Stratton, the gimmick sucks. I mean, she's improving in the ring, but the gimmick is awful. We're getting some better storylines. Cora Jade and Natalya is forming, which is nice, but the representation of women down there is far from what it was 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, that much is obvious. The roles have kind of reversed, where women's wrestling is taken more seriously on the main roster compared to NXT. The other thing Becky said, and I'm doing a full analysis of what she said here because this was the big talking point this week. The other thing she said was they don't get as much time. Again, that is a fact. That's a fact. Someone had said, I saw on Twitter, the women only had one match on Raw this week in 3 hours. Yeah, but there was a hell of a lot more representation for the women on Raw and a lot more important segments and more television time than on Dynamite last week. I mean, yeah, Marina Shafir and Jade Cargill had a 10-minute match and Rampage that no one really gave a fuck about, but on Raw, we got the return of Asuka confronting Becky Lynch, who was out there cutting a promo, returning to Raw. We had that. We had the mixed tag team match, which I hardly count because it was terrible and it was 90 seconds. But we had Sonya and Bianca Belair getting a decent amount of time in Bianca's hometown for the Raw Women's Championship. And I'm sure there were other women. I mean, Carmella was out there. Zelina Vega was out there. Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan had their backstage brawl. So we got a lot of women involvement on Raw this week, albeit only having one real match with the women. Dynamite, how many storylines are we actually getting? I feel like Anna Jay's been completely forgotten about, and she was on the rise. The Ty Conti stuff, I don't really count. I mean, I guess if we're not going to count the intergender stuff, let's not count Ty Conti and Paige Van Zandt, because that whole thing sucks anyway. We're getting Sheeta and Deeb tonight. Thunder Rosa doesn't have a feud coming off the Nyla Rose feud. They already kind of wrapped that up. Jade with her 30th win. Her and Marina Shafir, I just do not give two fucks about. Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander were having their feud but before Hirsch got hurt. Red Velvet is now randomly with Jade Cargill. There's just not a whole lot going on in the women's division right now in AEW at this current moment compared to a month or two ago that I'm overly interested in personally. But she's right. They don't get as much time. And WWE also has more television time too. That is another factor. And the other thing is they aren't as good. That is completely subjective. That's the only one I'm willing to argue on. On paper, who would I say has the better women's division in the ring? Like as far as who has the better wrestlers in the ring, AEW or WWE? I would say WWE. I mean, WWE alone has. I mean, the Four Horsemen alone are better than anyone in that AEW women's division except for maybe Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is fantastic and one of the best in the world. I think Sheeta's great too. She's also up there. Serena Deeb is also great. I think the Four Horsewomen, as far as a complete package, are just better than probably any of those women, including Rosa. Becky, Charlotte, Banks and Bayley are all amazing. And that's not even counting the Rhea Ripleys, and Liv Morgan's getting a lot better. Ronda Rousey's having a real cold run right now, but she's pretty good as well. You look at all the other women they have that they're not doing a whole ton with, but Naomi's one half of the tag team champion. She's very popular. She's quite good as well. Doudrop is very good. Nikki Ash, the character, is awful, but she's good. AEW has a lot of good women as well, like I said, but I feel like as far as the best of the best, she's not saying the women in AEW are shit. I saw a lot of people thinking, oh, she's saying they're all awful. Look at all these other women they have that are just great. Yeah, they are great, but I think WWE's women in the ring are better. And again, that's not saying that everyone in WWE is better than everyone in AEW. I mean, Tamina is fucking terrible, obviously. But for every Tamina, you had a Mill in AEW, who's thankfully no longer there, or Brandy Rhodes, who's also no longer there. They've kind of trimmed the fat a little bit as far as that stuff goes. But again, they have Sheeta, they have Thunder Rosa, who's great. Even Nyla Rose has gotten better. Ty Conti's improved a lot. Jade Cargill is becoming a major star for AEW, and she's really going to rival, honestly, anyone in WWE, maybe not in the ring right now, but as far as star appeal, she's getting that, and she has it already to a certain extent. So, again, I don't think Becky Lynch is wrong. I agree with all three of her points, but you also have to look at the other side of it and look at WWE's flaws as well. The stuff that she didn't acknowledge, all the issues their women's division is having right now. They're not creating new stars. They're just not. They brought back Asuka. They had the 4 horsewomen. That's great. They created Rhea Ripley. They created Bianca Belair. We have Rhea Ripley on the rise as well. What other new female stars are they creating? They fired all the women that could have been those next. Maybe, I don't know if Tegan Nox or Mia Yim would have been the next Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, but they weren't even given a fucking chance. They weren't even given a chance. Io Shirai, I don't know what her status is. Kairi Singh was there for like a year, and yeah, she left on her own accord, but they did nothing with her while she was there, and she's amazing. So they've had a real tough time in recent years of creating more female stars outside of the 4 horsewomen. It's great they nailed Bianca and Rhea Ripley. I think that's fantastic. But they got to do, and even Rhea's had a bit of a shaky run so far. I mean, she's been successful, but it could have been better. But anyway, though, so yeah, I think they could be doing more with the women in WWE as well. I mean, Nikki Ash, like I said, the character sucks. Doudrop should be more important than she is. I think the Doudrop name is awful. That's really hurting her as well. Tamina's not good. Dana Brooke is not good. Alexa Bliss, where the fuck is she? I mean, talk about they don't get as much time. Where the hell is Alexa Bliss? Lacey Evans is back, which I think is good. They called up Raquel Rodriguez, who we spoke with here on the channel last week. She plugged, check it out. She's pretty good as well. So, Naomi is very good. So, but there's a lot of women that need more time and more development. So, there are issues within both divisions. The WWE Women's Division is not perfect by any means. But what she said in a vacuum, in my opinion, is true. Without even acknowledging all the other stuff, all the other issues both divisions are having right now, and which one's better, which is completely subjective. It really depends what you're looking for. If you don't like the same stuff in WWE, because we've already gotten Becky and Asuka 2 other times in the last couple of years, then you might say that the AEW Women's Division is better. I wouldn't agree, but that's your opinion. My opinion is that the WWE division on paper is better. Even if you include NXT, but I don't really think that's much of a factor. It did have the best women's division at one point. But ever since the relaunch, the 2.0, they really haven't. I mean, they let go of Taya Valkyrie. They let go of so many women in the last year that really could have been the next big thing. Ember Moon, I mean, she could have been a lot bigger than she was, I think. But yeah, those comments got a lot of people riled up this week, and those are my 2 cents on that. I'll ask RJ what his 2 cents are on WrestleRant Radio. I'll probably repeat some of these thoughts, but that was the big thing this week, Becky Lynch shitting on AEW. Again, before you jump to conclusions and criticize Becky for talking about AEW, criticize the fucking outlet in the interview or for asking her such a silly question. I mean, I know he did it to get the click, oh, what are your thoughts on AEW's women's division? Are they better or are they worse? What the fuck do you think she's going to say? You know what I mean? I know it sounds generic, but if you really want to ask about AEW, and as someone who has talked to a lot of WWE people, as I said, you got to ask, like, first of all, even promoting the competition isn't great, but you just say, what are your thoughts on having more competition in the wrestling world? Is it good, is it bad, whatever. Not say, oh, how does their show compare to yours? Because obviously the WWE people are going to say our show is better, if anything at all. If they're going to comment at all, they're going to say the WWE shows are better. Because what the fuck do you expect them to say? So, anyway. At Reborn Again, John Rutland from the Twitter Machine, and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Rutland. Check out his content, his great work. He literally asked the exact same question as Noel did, so no need to repeat there. But his question basically was, so Becky Lynch mentioned in an interview that the AEW Women's Division is not as good as WWE's Women's Division. Well, amongst other things, obviously she said this is a WWE quote-unquote independent contractor, but how much truth is there to this as far as just the overall preparation? Again, I just said this, but I feel like all the initial points that she said are accurate. But there is a lot more to WWE's women's division that she's not mentioning. Again, in a bottle, in a vacuum, in a whatever, the WWE one is better. It's not perfect. It probably isn't even the best women's division of the world. I mean, obviously there's a lot of great women's wrestling in Japan. And I think even Impact doesn't get talked about enough for having a great women's division. But I think just if you look at the comments on the surface, she is not wrong. They don't get as much time. I don't think they're as good, although there are a lot of women that are amazing. WWE also just has more women, I think, too. AEW has a lot of women, but they don't have as much television time to showcase all of these women, so that's another issue. And she also said, well, they don't get as much time. Oh, they're not portrayed the same way. They're not represented the same way, which, again, is also true. Becky Lynch is one of the biggest stars in wrestling right now, anywhere. Bianca is well on her way as well. Charlotte is also one of the biggest stars in wrestling. All three of them, in my opinion, are bigger stars than any female in AEW. So that, to me, is your answer alone. But again, there's a lot more that goes into it than just that. His second question: how do you think this return for Mustafa Ali will go? I got to get used to saying his name like that. I know he started using that pronunciation, which I think is the accurate pronunciation during the Retribution stuff. But again, how do you think this return for Mustafa Ali will go? Same as before, better, or will it fizzle out and end with his release in the summer? I hate to be pessimistic, but it's honestly probably realistic. I think it will be the latter. I don't think we've seen anyone. I don't think we have seen anyone in the last couple of years that we know for a fact asked for their release, had it turned down, and then stuck around willingly for several more years. Like, we're happy to be there. They turned it around. Oh, I made a mistake in asking for my release. I'm sure it's happened. No names come to mind. The biggest examples that come to mind were from 2019, where there were a lot of people that asked for their release that year in the wake of AEW. Upon the inception of that promotion, the Revival asked for their release. They were around for another year and 3 months. They were around for another 15 months in that company. And in that time, they won the Raw Tag Team titles. I think they won the SmackDown Tag Team titles as well. Maybe 2 runs as Raw Tag Team champions. They were champions quite a bit during that run. Didn't have very memorable reigns, but they did give them the championships multiple times. I think 2 Raw Tag Team title runs and at least 1 SmackDown Tag Team title run. They were champions for a little bit because that was WWE's way of making them happy and making them, wanting to keep them around, which didn't work. At the end of the day, despite all the title runs, they still wanted to leave, and they got their release. Who are some of the other ones? Kalisto, I thought, asked for his release. Maybe not. I think he just indicated he wasn't happy. Maybe that was Great Metalik, but neither of them are there anymore anyway. Another one was Mike Bennett, who I know went public with his release, and he stuck around because they denied it. Why they kept Mike Bennett around, I think Mike Bennett's very good, but why they bothered to keep him around, I don't know. But he, again, was gone a couple of months later. And then Luke Harper is probably the most prominent example. When I think of Ali, I think of Luke Harper. Almost exactly 3 years ago, he went on Twitter in the wake of WrestleMania 35, that would have been. I think he had his last televised match at WrestleMania 35 in the Battle Royal on the pre-show, which no one knew that he was even in because they never even announced that he was coming back after like 6 or 7 months away. But anyway, he announced that he had requested his release to WWE officials. He announced this publicly on Twitter. They turned around and did not grant his release. They did not let him go. And not only did he disappear, but he also came back about 5 or 6 months later for that brief feud with Daniel Bryan at that point, whatever, Eric Rowan and Roman Reigns. He and Rowan teamed up against Bryan and Roman, I think at the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. Bryan and Roman won. I don't know if he was even on SmackDown after that. I know he was in the Battle Royal, a crown jewel, a couple of months later, about a month or so later, and then he again disappeared and was not seen again up until getting fired in December. So, again, I said this from the get-go, and I'll go into more detail a bit more here. I've talked about this before. The thing with Ali is this. Should they grant him his release? Morally, yes. Are they obligated to grant him his release? The answer is no. He signed a contract for X amount of years at whatever point. On paper, you have to honor it. Does he have to show up to work? That's not really up for me to decide. But he is under contract with the company for the next several years. The WWE contracts are very fucking wonky. I'm not going to argue that. I don't have a legal representation in front of me, a lawyer in front of me. But from what I understand from people that have worked there, from what I have heard, the contracts are very one-sided. WWE wrestlers cannot quit at will. They might have like an out clause. That's very few people who have that after like, a year or 18 months of being there. But for the most part, you can't request and if you do request your release, it's up to the company to be able to grant it. And if they don't, then you're kind of their prisoner for the next couple of years. WWE, whereas, they can release you whenever the fuck they want, for literally any reason. Like, I remember the whole Enzo thing, and people were saying, oh, how could they fire him for, I think obviously they fired him because he was accused of rape, which I don't think he ended up being found guilty of, which I know for a fact he wasn't found guilty of. Is that wrongful termination? I mean, WWE, again, could just say, well, we just didn't want you because we didn't think you were any good, or we had no plans for you. It really doesn't have to be any one. They don't have to give any fucking reason. They tell people it's budget cuts, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day because they can fire you for whatever reason they want. And with that being said, if they wanted to let Ali go, they could have. I guess they wanted to. What it looks like to me, because it is very weird. This all happened in January where he put up that statement on Twitter saying, oh, I asked for my release, blah, 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 and it wasn't granted. The weird thing about all of this is that they just got done releasing a whole bunch of people in November, and again in literally weeks earlier in early January from NXT. Samoa Joe, William Regal, Road Dogg, among others. Yet they want to hold on to Mustafa Ali. I mean, give me a break. And not that Ali isn't talented, he's very talented. He's not going to be a game changer anywhere, I don't think. So letting him go, he's not going to go to AEW and become the top star. If anything, Tony Storm might be more of a game changer than Ali is. And they let Tony Storm. We still don't know what the story is with Tony Storm and why they granted her release. I honestly, not to fully speculate, I still think it might have been like a mental health type thing or a physical health thing. I know she said she was just burnt out. She could have gone up and said, listen, I can't do this anymore. I'm depressed. I mean, doesn't mean they're going to grant it, but I think there was something there where they felt like they kind of had to let her go. Ali was just like, listen, I'm unhappy, let me go. And they're like, no. So I think there's two different stories there. We don't know Tony Storm's full story. That's her thing, and she can share that whenever she wants, if ever. If not, it's not that big of a deal. But with Ali, they were just like, no, we're not going to let you just go on Twitter and say, oh, you publicly announced it. I mean, he already, had asked them privately, and they said no. I guess they just really wanted to make an example out of him. The thing is, though, is this, and I guess he has a few more years on his contract. I never thought for a second they would hold on to him until the end, and they still very well could. I still think come the next round of budget cuts, which we shockingly have not had yet. And that's another thing, too. It's not like they've fired a whole bunch of people since January. I mean, they let go of Nash Carter for other reasons, but and Kushida left on his own. But they haven't done any budget cuts yet. And usually they do every year after WrestleMania. They have in recent years, but not this year. And if they were to do budget cuts and Ali was not on that list, I would be shocked. I know they just brought him back. He just beat Miz in his return. He confronted the United States champion. He kicked off a feud with Ciampa. I thought it was a good return. The thing is this, though. If you're not going to grant the man his release, I'm not saying that, like, listen, if Ali was in the middle of a top-tier storyline and then he asked for his release, and it's like, okay, you can't do that because we have plans for you and you're signed to a contract, so no. But if they have nothing going on for the guy, then just let him the fuck go. Just to make an example by being petty, by just sitting him at home until his contract is up is ridiculous. They're not going to hold on to this guy for another 2.5 years and continue to pay him for literally no reason if they're not going to use him. That being said, at least they're using him. I'm happy they're at least putting him on TV. I don't imagine he's overly enthusiastic that he's still with this company, that he feels that mistreated him or whatever for any right or wrong reason. I don't know. Because we haven't really heard his side of the story yet as far as why he wanted to leave. I know he said he wasn't happy there, but we don't know the specifics. And we probably will at some point down the road. But anyway, for now, though, at least they're fucking using him. So I'm not going to not complain, but I can't say, oh, just let the guy go. Well, at least they're finally using him. If you have him, use him. If you're not going to use him, they're not obligated, again, to let him go. They're not. But it really would just make sense. If you're just paying the guy to sit at home and you're telling people, oh, budget cuts, we got to let you go for budget cuts, then why the fuck are you paying someone that you have no intention of using? If you're paying someone that you have no intention of using, and they're not asking for their release, someone like a Mace, for example, or a Mansoor, who I think Mansoor is very good. I'm not saying, oh, fire him, they have no plans for him. I mean, I don't like, I've gone on the record here before and saying, oh, they should probably let go of this person. I don't like to do that anymore just because it is people's livelihoods we're talking about here. I shouldn't just say, oh, fire this person, unless there's something egregiously wrong with them from a moral standpoint. But listen, if they're not asking for their release, then they shouldn't have to be firing certain people. But if Ali wants out and they have nothing for him to do, then let him go. Now they do. It took him several months, but they finally brought him back. They came to some sort of an agreement. And I don't think Ali's going to turn around and say, oh, I'm so happy here and now. I'm going to re-sign when my contract is up, and I shouldn't have done what I did. No, I'm sure he still very much wants to leave, but he's just making the most of a bad situation for now. And again, he won. He beat The Miz on Raw this week. So it's not completely bad. It's not like they brought him back to job him out. I mean, maybe they will the Ciampa or whatever. But for now, he's being used decently well. Will it fizzle out and will he get released and be let go in a couple of months? Honestly, I'm almost sure of it. That's exactly what happened with Luke Harper, and I'm sure this is going to be the same thing. And I don't think he's going to be depressed, they made me think I was sticking around and now I don't want to go. No, I still think he wants to go. I'm sure he'll be elated when he gets that call that WWE is relieving him of his future endeavor, wishing him well in his future endeavors, relieving him of his duties, whatever. I'm sure he'll be ecstatic. So I'm sure that's coming. I would love for them to actually use him meaningfully in the meantime, but I'm not optimistic because he's already returned, twice? He came back in the summer a few years ago after they literally kept him off TV for 6 or 7 months for literally no fucking reason. Zero reason he was off television. And he came back in the middle of 2020. I think he beat the United States champion or something in a 6-man tag, and they did nothing with him. I think he pinned Bobby or MVP or something, and they went on to do absolutely nothing with him. Disappeared to main event. Came back as a member of Retribution. Again, did nothing with them. He was booked like a fucking loser. So that's 2 squandered returns. Will third times be the charm? Maybe, but I'm not optimistic. So for his sake, I hope he either is happy or finds happiness in being released by WWE and being granted his release at some point. In the meantime, at least they're using him. And for 1 week only anyway, he was used well. And they did poke fun of the whole, you took your ball and went home shit. But at least they had him beat The Miz, so it's not like he was out there being the butt of a joke and then just got beat like a fucking idiot. And now they're just going to make fun of him and mock him on TV until he goes. I mean, they still very well could, but for now they're not doing that, which I appreciate. As far as burying him with multiple losses and whatnot, which again might be coming, but for now they're not. His next question, do you think CM Punk will beat Hangman at Double or Nothing? And if so, how would you book Punk's championship reign? I honestly do. I think Hangman's been a good champion. Definitely not the best because he really hasn't had a hell of a whole lot of focus on the shows. I feel like there's bigger storylines on Dynamite and Rampage right now than Adam Page being champion. Because it's not like Page is closing out the Dynamites or opening every week. He's doing good stuff, but he's not the focal point really at all. I know he's not going to be in the show tonight due to COVID, but for the most part in the last 6 months, he really hasn't done a hell of a whole lot important stuff. He just hasn't. So I would put the belt on Punk. He's white hot right now. He's having a fantastic run. He's only had 1 loss to MJF in Chicago and Dynamite a few months ago. Other than that, he's had a hell of a run. So I would just ride with that popularity. And, listen, if it's not Punk, it could be MJF. But the thing with MJF is he already lost to Punk, and he's probably losing to Wardlow at Double or Nothing. So 2 straight pay-per-view losses doesn't exactly set him up to challenge for the World Championship either on Dynamite or at All Out or wherever. So at this point, it probably should be Punk being the one to take the title off of Hangman Page. I had always said MJF, and we've talked about MJF here on the show before, but Punk is riding that wave of momentum. It's going to have a rare babyface versus babyface dynamic, which I'm all for. And I think this would be the time. I mean, it's better now than putting the belt on Punk 5 years from now when a lot less people care. So I would just do it now and put the belt on him. As far as how I would book his reign, I mean, honestly, I think it'd be cool. He doesn't have to be champion for a year, but I think it'd be cool if he won the belt and at some point during his reign, a lot like when he was WWE champion 10 years ago, he turned heel during that reign and ended up losing it to an MJF. If he loses to MJF, he has to be a babyface. But if he loses it to Darby Allin, someone who he beat in his AEW in-ring debut, he could be a heel and he could turn heel during the way. It depends on what. I mean, if the crowds are still very hot for him at that point, which I expect them to be, turning him heel might not be the smartest thing at that point, but the popularity starts to falter a little bit, like it kind of has with Adam Page, because people liked him better in chase mode. That's just how wrestling fans are. I mean, people are just fickle like that sometimes. A lot of the times, actually. then you turn him heel. If not, then keep him babyface. But either way, there's a lot of different opponents he can face that we really haven't seen him match up against with yet. Either it's people that he's faced before. You could do him and MJF again, him and Eddie Kingston, him and Darby Allin, people like that. Or completely fresh faces. You could do him and Bryan in the main event of a pay-per-view. You could do him and Moxley, I think would be a lot of fun. Him and Kenny Omega. Him and Adam Cole. Samoa Joe, maybe. I don't know if that's a pay-per-view worthy match in 2022, but I think that'd be fucking cool to run that back after almost 20 years. That's an option. There's a lot of people that he could face from the current roster. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to see. I'm sure he will be champion at some point, if not, next month, which I think he will be. He doesn't even have to be champion for like a year. Like I said, he could be champion for 6 months. He could be champion only until All Out. He could be a temporary filler champion, but that 3 months that he'd be champion for, people would be fucking hot for. So I'm not complaining, like I said. At Iwagu91, their first question was, while he is a heel and heels do tend to cheat, do you think Adam Cole is overusing the low blow in his matches? It's not really something I've noticed, but it does make sense. I remember he beat Orange Cassidy with a low blow a couple of months ago. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Why do you need a low blow to beat Orange Cassidy? I mean, come on, man. I think you need a low blow to beat Ishii on Friday. Yeah, he does do with the low blow a lot. It is a cheap finish. Like you said, heels should cheat. I mean, that's the only way he's going to get booed. But doing the same finish over and over, it's going to get old after a while. It comes to a point where his opponents are just morons for not wearing cups, His next question, considering he's had single matches in AEW, do you think Dax Harwood will qualify for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament? Yes, I do. Cash Wheeler has not. I did not know that, but I don't really think I thought about it until I saw that tweet of his or his video package or whatever it was, saying that he's never had a singles match yet in AEW. And I think he had a couple of singles matches in WWE, but not as many as Dax Harwood has in AEW now. Harwood is, they're both Bret Hart marks, and Dax is really the more vocal one of the two. I would have Harwood win. He's gone toe-to-toe with Jungle Boy in a great match, toe-to-toe with Chris Jericho, toe-to-toe with CM Punk recently, among other people. I would have Dax Harwood win. Cash Wheeler qualifying too would be fine. I'd be all for that, but I really think it should be Dax Harwood, and I think he will be. His next question, your thoughts on Wheeler Yuta's new ring gear and ditching the sneakers to wrestle in boots. I think that's great. Is he wearing the tights still or the trunks? I forgot what his new ring gear is, but it was noticeable when he was in action with the Blackpool Combat Club about a week or two ago. Ditching the sneakers to wrestle in boots was long overdue. That wasn't something that bothered me, but just even reading that and realizing he was wrestling in sneakers was, I guess it works for certain people, but it's just fucking dumb. And it makes sense now that he's in this traditional wrestling stable in the Blackpool Combat Club. I'm glad he's wearing actual boots, especially if he's going to be associated with William Regal. William Regal will not tolerate sneakers in the middle of that ring. So Wheeler Yuta is really good. I think he's a good fit for that group, and I'm glad they're taking a more serious approach to them now, away from the best friend shit. What are your thoughts on the AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door being announced for Sunday, June 26th? I'm excited for it. I think it's super cool, this whole talk about, it's not going to attract any casual fans. Well, listen, I agree. You're not wrong, but that's not really what this is about. They have 4 other pay-per-views a year that they can use to attract casual fans with big matches. That's not what this is about. Not everything has to be about boosting a rating or, listen, the buy rate sucks and they'll never do it again. I have a feeling the buy rate's going to be pretty good because a lot of the people that watch New Japan and AEW both, and it's not everyone who watches New Japan watches AEW and vice versa. I watch AEW. I do not watch New Japan. But I will watch the show, absolutely, because it sounds fucking cool. And again, like I said, I don't watch the New Japan product religiously, but I know enough about the top stars there where a lot of the match possibilities are very exciting on paper. So I think it's a great concept. We've been waiting for this for a while. I think other companies working together is super fucking cool. And I think it should be like a New Japan versus AEW show, and not just AEW matches and then New Japan matches. I think they should have a lot of inter-promotional matches to make it worthwhile, in my opinion. I want to see some interaction with Okada and Tanahashi and people like that, with Punk and Danielson and Page. So those are my thoughts on that. Jay White, Will Ospreay, and all the other top stars in AEW, Adam Cole, Ishii. So we'll see, but I'm excited for the event. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it in 2 months. I'm at Kyle Rochelle 19 from Twitter. Now that Becky Lynch and Asuka are back in feuding again, could WWE have them face each other at WrestleMania Backlash, and who wins? If Becky loses, could they turn Becky babyface again? Yeah, I think they'll probably have a match at the pay-per-view. I know the pay-per-view, they have one Raw left to build up the match, but the last time I looked, they only have 6 matches on the card. So they need at least, I mean, they don't need 8. I mean, they've done, listen, Backlash 6 years ago was a 6-match card, and it was one of the best pay-per-views I've seen that company do. At the same time, it was only 2.5 hours. That was during the, initial days of the brand split being brought back, and they were doing brand exclusive events. It was only the SmackDown roster, and they were a little thin at that point, but it still ended up being an amazing show. So anyway, with Becky and Asuka, could they be a match on the show? For sure. I think they could fill out another slot on that show with that match. I think it'd be a great match. Who wins? That's the question. Honestly, I'd probably would have Asuka win. I know she won the first one. Becky won the second one at the Rumble in 2020. They had a third match on the Raw that a lot of people forget. That was also great that Becky won. Asuka, I know Becky just came back too, but Becky was only gone for a month. I know Becky really hasn't lost in the last 3 years a lot, so it would, she shouldn't be going on a losing streak is what I'm saying. I think the first match, if they're going to do multiple matches, should go to Asuka. She just came back after 9 months, establish her as a big deal, have her win. And not only that, but I think the next opponent for Bianca, beyond Sonya, and I don't know if they're continuing the Sonya stuff, but it should be Asuka. I think Asuka should be next in line for a feud with Bianca. And in order for that to make sense, you got to have Asuka beat Becky first. I wouldn't go back to the Becky and Bianca feud for a little while. Probably not until SummerSlam. Maybe Hell in a Cell. If they're doing Becky and Bianca at Hell in a Cell, then you have to have Becky beat Asuka. Then at that point, Asuka just goes back to being any other woman on the roster, in my opinion. That's the issue with this. I think Asuka should win, though, in my opinion. If Becky loses, could she turn babyface again? Yeah, I could see that. The babyface depth on that roster was really lacking. I mean, they had Bianca, and then beyond that, they didn't really have anyone. Rhea was a babyface before they turned her. They have Alexa Bliss, but she's not on the show right now. They should be bringing her back. And that was about it. Who do they have? Fucking Dana Brooke? They needed more babyfaces in that division. So I think turning Rhea was smart, and they could turn Becky. I mean, they have Asuka back now, too. So they have Bianca and Asuka at least. And I would bring back Alexa Bliss so you don't have to turn Becky right now. But honestly, yeah, I wouldn't be upset with Becky turning back babyface. The only thing with that is that Becky has this new look now. She looks like a star. I mean, she's going to look like a star regardless, but, not that she didn't previously. But she looks like she's having a lot of fun as a heel, and they're really pushing the heel thing with this new character twist of hers going off the deep end after losing the championship. So probably not right now. Not right now. I would not have her turn at this exact moment, but maybe at some point a little bit later down the road is what I would say. Who will be Raquel Rodriguez's first feud on SmackDown? Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, or Xia Li? Now that Xia is a heel and Raquel is a babyface, would that be a good filler feud before Sasha and or Charlotte? Yeah, I could see that. The problem with SmackDown's women's heels is that none of them mean anything. I would not do Raquel and Charlotte off the bat. Not at all. But you have a couple of other heels. Unfortunately, they just don't mean shit. Like her and Shayna, I think, would be a really good feud if Shayna actually meant anything, which she doesn't. Natalya is just abysmal as fuck. I mean, you could do that as a match, but I don't really give a fuck about that as a feud. Although Natalya is feuding with Raquel's former partner, Cora Jade, so I guess there is that. But yeah, Xia Li would make sense. The only issue there is that Raquel's probably going to win and Xia's going to lose. And Xia only had one match so far, but they've clearly already given up on Xia Li, which is a shame. Of the two, I would have Raquel win. They just don't give a fuck about Xia Li at this point. I mean, it's as if they ever really cared to begin with, but I mean, what a shame. But I would probably, I mean, you're right. What is it going to be, Shotzi? They don't give a fuck about Shotzi either. Shotzi's been on the show in months. So yeah, I would probably have it be Xia Li, and I would have Raquel Rodriguez win. At noob_n_co 1991, what are your thoughts on Angelina Love's debut in NWA? Also, do you think the NWA will sign more women's wrestling veterans like Melina and Angelina, and women from the indies like Natalia Markova and add them to the NWA women's division? I don't really care about Angelina Love joining the division. I mean, I guess it's another name. She's an established name. The problem is that Angelina Love, I'm sorry, is just not very good. Her match on Power last night with Tootie Lynn, I think it was actually better than I thought it would be. It wasn't awful, but Angelina Love had literally no memorable matches for any right reasons in Ring of Honor for as long as she was there. The whole Beautiful People act, I loved it in TNA, but that was literally 15 years ago. Velvet Sky was never great in the ring either. She's better off as a commentator, and even that she's not amazing at, but she does decently now. She's okay. Yeah, Love, I guess, yeah, listen, it's a place for her to work, because Ring of Honor ain't going to bring her in now with AEW. AEW certainly doesn't need her. So I guess it makes sense. I don't really care. You mentioned Melina. They already have Melina. I don't know if she's under contract, but she already works for NWA, although she hasn't been there in a little while. Markova's already there. Yeah, they should sign more independent wrestling women. I mean, maybe they just don't want to go to NWA, but Kira Hogan was doing some spots in the NWA for a while. Several other women. Maddie Rankowski, who was doing a lot of AEW dark stuff, has been on Power a few times in recent months. I haven't seen Willow Nightingale pop up there yet, but I think that'd be a cool place for her to get some more experience. And people like that, a lot of the people that you see on Dark and Elevation who are feted these other ways, like I don't give a fuck about Kylan King, but people like that, though, I think would really benefit from getting some more experience and exposure in AEW for as many people as watch it anyway. I mean, not a lot of people watch NWA anymore, I understand, but it's more exposure. It's better than working the fucking local bingo hall, in the local independent scene. NWA at least is a bigger platform, and you get more people to know who you are. So, yeah, they should be picking up more female talent for sure. And they have a lot of other good talent in that division. They just need to add some more. With the recent delays of Spider-Man Across the Universe, Spider-Verse rather, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie, what are your expectations for them when they come out in theaters? I'm still hopeful that both movies will succeed next year because this year's movies are already stacked. Yeah, I didn't know about the Spider-Man movie being bumped until like a few days ago. That's a shame. So it's good and it's bad. The bad thing is that it got bumped by like 8 months. It went from October to June of next year. I mean, that just sucks because I was looking forward to that movie. The first one was fantastic. The good news is that as of right now, I think, unless I read this wrong, it's supposed to come out on my birthday of June 2nd, 2023, which is going to be on a Friday next year. That's pretty fucking cool. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And, yeah, so that's going to be cool. I haven't really heard a lot about the Super Mario... Oh, wait. Was the Super Mario Bros. Movie the one that was animated and going to be voiced by, like... Not Michael Keaton, but... Keegan-Michael Keel, or whatever his name is, from Key and Peele. I don't know how you... Yeah, I don't know what his name is exactly, but... Him and the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Jack Black. Was that the movie? If that got delayed, then that sucks, because I think that was going to be hysterical. Honestly, with the people that got on for that, Chris Pratt, right? As Mario. I mean, it just sounds like a literal meme of a movie. And I was looking forward to it. So if that's getting bumped, that sucks. I don't know until when, but... As far as other movies coming out this year, I already answered John Ritland's question about this a few weeks ago. There's not a lot of movies coming out like this summer that I'm overly anticipating, aside from a select few. So, I don't know how many more movies are coming out this year that you're overly excited for. I know the new Halloween movie comes out in October, I think. I'm looking forward to that. That's the big conclusion to the 3-part series that started in 2018. That's cool, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing both of those movies. It's going to be a while, unfortunately, but we'll see how they do. Their last question here, with Asuka now back, what feuds should we expect to see from her? I say keep the Bianca Belair feud on hold and have her feud with some women from NXT 2.0 like Nikita Lyons, Alba Fire, Kaylee Ray, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, or Tiffany Stratton. It'll be entertaining and interesting. If you're going to have her feud with women from NXT, then why not just bring her back to NXT? As opposed, I mean, they brought her back to the main roster for a reason. I'm not even saying that's a bad idea. I think having her mix it up with a lot of those women would be not only good for them, but good for her. Because she hasn't done shit that has been interesting in years. Listen, we've talked about this before. You're the biggest Asuka fan, I realize that. But listen, I think Asuka's great. I am an Asuka fan as well. The goofy, dancing, whatever the fuck character she has right now is unbearably bad. It is really, really bad. I said that at the height of the pandemic when she was doing it. I said it last year. I'm going to say it now. It is fucking dumb. I cannot take her seriously. I just don't care. As Asuka herself is great. But another issue that Asuka has faced that we've talked about before, she has done everything. She has feuded with almost everyone except for some of these more recent, even Rhea Ripley she feuded with last year. The only bigger, one of the biggest stars on that main roster that she has not feuded with yet is Bianca Belair, and maybe Raquel, but she's on SmackDown. The biggest feud they could do with Asuka right now, I mean, I guess her and Becky is nice to relive that with Becky as the heel now, that's great, but they haven't done Bianca and Asuka yet, which I think could be a lot of fun. They haven't done Asuka and Alexa Bliss, did they? I don't remember. Did they do Asuka and Alexa Bliss? They've done it a couple. They've done the match a couple times. I don't think they ever really actually feuded. I mean, you could do that, I guess. But honestly, I think bringing her back to NXT would not be the worst thing. She hasn't been there in a very long time. It's been almost 5 years. And it's all new women at this point. So yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think I would love to see her in NXT. Right now is probably the wrong time because she just came back to Raw. Unless they have her pulling double duty, I mean, the thing is that even if she went to NXT, they'd probably still have her on Raw anyway, like they're doing with Natalya. So they just brought Natalya down. They don't probably need Asuka there. I mean, I don't give a fuck about Natalya. I would rather have Asuka in that spot on NXT instead of Natalya, but that's just me. But yeah, I don't mind the idea, but the issue is that beyond that, though, they don't really have a hell of a whole lot of women for her to feud with on the main roster because she's already faced everyone, she's already beaten everyone, she's already won every fucking title. Even the NXT women's title she held for like 2 years or a year and a half or whatever it was. So what more can you really do with her is my question. And then the last question, at E13A, have you heard the news about the upcoming Spider-Man movie, speaking of Spider-Man, particularly the one with Bad Bunny? Yeah, I've heard mixed thoughts on it. I think Bad Bunny being in a Spider-Man movie is fucking cool for him. I think that's awesome. The idea of the Spider-Man movies, like, is this more of a Sony thing, just announcing more Spider-Man-related projects? I haven't seen Morbius yet. I heard it sucked. I haven't seen that yet, but, if that's any indication, that's probably not the wisest thing to continue on with these Sony projects. Venom movies I liked. I liked those, but beyond that, if the Morbius stuff wasn't good, I can't imagine what else they can come out with that would be that good. Maybe they will surprise me. Maybe it's going to be like DC where they have a banger and then they have like a shitty movie out after that. Who knows? Hopefully both Sony and DC can be more consistent with that. But yeah, with at E13, I'm looking at your fucking Twitter handle here. With the Spider-Man movies, it's interesting. I loved No Way Home or Far From Home or whatever the fuck it was, the most recent movie. I get them mixed up. I thought that was great. Where they go from here with the Spider-Man character, will it still be Tom Holland or what it's going to consist of exactly? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm intrigued if nothing else. And again, I've heard a lot of mixed opinions on it. Oh, it's going to be shit. Oh, it's going to be great. It's cool they're doing this. Oh, I don't really care, blah, blah, blah. But we'll see. I'll probably watch it anyway. I still plan on watching Morbius, even though no one else really seems to have. But I'll probably watch it at some point just to say that I have. So that's probably coming at some point as well. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for episode, let's see here, 439 of #AskGSM. Yeah, 439, which is wild, for April 27th, 2022. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Quick cheap plug here. I mentioned this earlier, but we had a lot of interviews go up last week and even this week as well. I posted the 2 media scrums from my time at MLW last week, or it was from earlier this month, but I posted them earlier this week. Speaking to EJ and Duca from MLW, as well as Casey Navarro. Both were great. We had those 2 interviews go up earlier this week. Sal Volcano from Impractical Jokers fame, that went up last Monday here on the channel. We had my interview with Matthew Willig from Young Rock, who plays Andre the Giant. He was awesome. Check that out. Raquel Rodriguez, that went up on Friday here on the channel, talking about her SmackDown debut. AJ Styles, when I spoke to him over Mania weekend. I still got to post my interview with Becky Lynch, among other people. Those will be up at some point here on the channel. I just got to get through the content and posting it and stuff like that. I just haven't had the time yet. So those will be up at some point, I promise you. But with all that being said, guys, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Be sure to drop a comment on the post that I usually include on Tuesday nights, if not the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome rest of your week, guys. I look forward to joining you and speaking to you in the month of May, starting next week, which is wild. I think it's already here, but plenty more exciting stuff on the horizon that I'm very excited for. So keep an eye out for all that cool content as well. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.